Good morning, all. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have Vikas Kumar and Raman Gupta with us, and the topic is getting started with Sitecore Managed Cloud Containers. If you have any questions during the session, please add it to the chat window. We will discuss all of your question at the end of the session. And if you have any discussion with the presenters, we will allow you to discuss with them. Over to you, Vikas and Raman. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kushbu. And warm welcome, everyone. Thanks for having us and sharing our kind of learning about Sitecore Managed Cloud with containers. So, as you know, we all are working with Sitecore and the related infrastructure, with multiple infrastructure and dealing with a lot of problem around it. So we'll try to see how Sitecore Managed Cloud Container is helping us and what we need to know to move ourselves into the Sitecore Cloud Containers solution. Little intro about ourselves. So myself, Vikas. So our Sitecore strategy MVP for a couple of years. Currently, I'm working as a Senior Director Practice Head for DXP Solutions in Aspire Infolabs. I have around 19 plus of years of experience, mainly working in CMS, DXP kind of solution. Have worked more than 50 implementation, including Sitecore and some other systems and related technologies. I have previously was a speaker at multiple Sitecore user group, physical and the live events like webinar like this. I've done multiple certification in Sitecore, Azure, and other platforms. Here are my few social profile. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, blogs, or any question directly. You can shoot out to me on vikas.kumar@aspire.com. Yes, Raman.
Yeah, thanks, Vike. Thanks, Sitecore User Group India and everyone for joining us. So about myself, I'm Raman Gupta, Sitecore Technology MVP 2022. I'm a technical architect at Aspire Infolabs in India and having more than 8 years of experience working with Sitecore and related technologies. I'm a Sitecore certified and Azure certified developer, and I've been a speaker at various Sitecore user groups, Sitecore Virtual Developer Day 2021 and 2022. Recently, we have organized Sitecore user group in Delhi NCR, where I spoke about Dockers and containers for Sitecore. So our today's session is basically extension of that session, where we will take the Dockers and containers to Sitecore Managed Cloud. Here are my social media handle, LinkedIn and Twitter. You can connect me over there. I usually write my Sitecore related blogs with my blogging website, Sitecore with Raman. You can subscribe my website, and I am pretty much active on Stack and Stack Exchange and Slack. So you can connect me over there as well. Yep, that's about me.
Great, thanks. Great intro. So obviously everybody is excited like about the agenda. What would be the agenda? Obviously a small discussion about Sitecore Managed Cloud, right? So, and how you will decide the sizing of the managed cloud, and then what's required to move to the Sitecore Managed Cloud, and some other options. Sitecore doesn't provide only the basic kind of the infrastructure. So what are extended options available, the type of services, like you can see here, the apps and the containers. Our focus today is more on container side, because from last year we are working on containers. App services anyway in our cloud or in Sitecore Cloud, we are working more than 5 years. So we're talking more about containers today. Then benefits of the cloud containers. Then the component and the architecture is very important to understand from here onwards. The RASI responsibility, what Sitecore will own, what we have to work on. Development, obviously you need to change your local solutions, so what required to change that, and in terms of the deployment as well. So it's a completely changed process. Sitecore has tried to kind of simplify it with a lot of things that they are providing to us, that we'll discuss about that. And then there are many other topics as well, upgrading Sitecore on containers or upgrading infrastructure or patching systems or deploying if your solution using some extensions like SXA, SES, and SP, those sort of things. And Sitecore uses such stacks as a managed solar instance. So how you make changes into the such stacks configs and many other extra configurations like adding custom domains, CDN securities, Horizon. If you want to use backup, restoring, DR, monitoring, reviewing. So it's a kind of a big agenda, I would say, for one session. So we'll see how much we can cover it today, and we'll not try to rush it. And if required to, we'll schedule one more session about same to some more extra configuration and extended modules.
Okay,
Yeah.
so about this webinar key takeaways. So basically, we will try to see what Sitecore Managed Cloud offer us as a partner or the developer team. So what we will get out of the box in the Managed Cloud and how we can extend the Managed Cloud if we want to. So as we get told, we will not be able to cover everything in the session. So we will see like how much we can deliver in this session. So yeah.
Thanks. Okay. So first of all, like Sitecore Managed Cloud, you know, I remember in my last 17 years of career, you will maybe I have once, you know, 10 years back, I have taken 2 to 3 months in setting up the overall infrastructure for one of the CMS, not obviously Sitecore. So that was we used to do it, and like it was a big infrastructure, a lot of the things. But now things are from few months, we are in days, right? Right. So we have multiple option. Obviously, we have come across from these days. Now we have options like self-managed cloud. We can host Sitecore ourselves onto the cloud. And Sitecore Managed Cloud is where Sitecore is hosting on behalf of us and providing us the software as well as the infrastructure as well as the support services, everything into a managed bundle. So that's we call it as a Sitecore Managed Cloud. Still, many customers are still using on-premises deployment because of their legacy of connecting different systems internally, or they are still maybe on older versions of Sitecore like 7 or 8. But if you are moving towards the cloud, we would suggest to move at least towards the 9 and 10 if you want to move to the self-managed or the Sitecore Managed Cloud.
Okay, so why do we need Sitecore Managed Cloud? So to answer this, I would basically say that because this is the Sitecore product and Sitecore Cloud team knows their product infrastructure better than anyone else. So as a development team or partner, our focus should be on the development of the custom solution or integrating the modules into the Sitecore. But for the deployment or infra related stuff, we can rely on the Sitecore team. So Sitecore has a dedicated team of cloud engineers who monitors or provide support to the development team 24/7 into 365 with the managed cloud services. So with all these services, partners can get a peace of mind from the Sitecore deployment standpoint of view. So we basically can get basically peace of mind. The other benefit I would say is that we will get all the deployment pipeline and related stuff set up, and these are up and running. So we just need to deploy our custom solution related thing, and our website is up and running on the servers in within few hours or minutes.
The first question arises like, what are the sizing options available in the Sitecore Managed Cloud? So it's based on our like t-shirt sizing, like from extra small to XXL or 3X. So 3XL, so it starts from very small and depend upon your traffic coming to your website per month. Like they have given the range, if you are around 150K, you can go with extra small, but you have very big implementation where we have 10,000K of visits every month. You have the option for that as well. So they cover like from very small implementation to very large complex implementations as well. So everything can be covered under the Sitecore. But sizing is not enough to go onto the cloud. right? Okay, you go select the size and you go over there. There are many other things that you need to kind of know, like how many production, non-production environment are required. We discuss about monthly visit for the sizing. So we discuss about annual visits that are required, uh, right? So what software? Obviously, cloud is available for XM, XP, or XC. Yesterday we heard about the XM cloud as well. So that's is very different service. That's more of a SaaS. This is more of a PaaS that we are kind of thinking. So, and other options, there are other requirements like security needs. You have VPN requirement or the CDN requirement, so that you need to figure it out. If you need any customization around solar side of things that you might have done on your local system, and your DR, high availability requirement, your response time required, support, kind of support that required, or any other custom requirement that you may have as per your implementation. Once you figured out everything, Sitecore will get onto the sizing and the agreement. Customer or partner, in some cases, mostly customer, signs the agreement with the managed cloud. Then the Sitecore creates the accounts for us to raise the tickets and the information. Then we request for infrastructure creation. So agreement doesn't create the instance for you. You need to kind of request for all different instances. Let's say you want two production, one non-production. So you will start with non-production environment and then non-production environment one by one. You want to request, and then Sitecore will kind of have your own SLA to build it. Mostly they are pretty quick. They do it in a day or two maximum. Infrastructure and handover. Then Sitecore has a onboarding process, so that they will kind of hand over us the infrastructure to us. Then we'll start our deployment process onto the infrastructure. So that's kind of the overall we see like how we move towards the Sitecore managed cloud.
Yes. And so what we will get out of the box when we opt in for Sitecore Managed Cloud services. So basically, there are two variants that Sitecore Managed Cloud provides. One is Sitecore Managed Cloud standard services, and other one is the premium services. So with both of these services, we will basically get ability to host our all the infrastructure online, like all the Azure Kubernetes services or PaaS services. We'll get SLA of 99.9% uptime and 24/7 365 support from the Sitecore cloud engineers. We'll get support from Sitecore application professional service. As I told, that will get deliver. They will get basically the peace of mind because they are hosting all the infrastructure, and we'll get the expertise from Sitecore team. The main difference you can see here in the standard and premium is that with a premium, we will get a dedicated customer success manager, technical account manager, and Sitecore technical architect. So a dedicated technical team as well we'll get with the premium version. So if we are having a very customized heavy website or requirement, so recommended is that we should go with the premium, because that will, so the technical team can help us to build those customization and go into the cloud. But otherwise, we can opt in for the standard version.
Right. And some other extended options, as we mentioned earlier as well, like it's not the basic Sitecore infrastructure, it's the complete solution about like how you will monitor your assets, the infrastructure assets, or monitor your application. So they configure the app inside Grafana and Azure Alert. So many things that we will discuss like at later part. Security, you can go with WAF for simple application, for global application like front door or the Cloudflare. So those options are available for security management side of things, or CDN using Azure or the Cloudflare. And there there's one more option there as well, and the DR with the cold host. So as per your requirements, it's a complete solution, not like just basic infrastructure.
Yes. So with the managed cloud, Sitecore managed cloud will get basically two options. One is the PaaS one, and the other one is the containers. And within these two options, basically we will get two variants: the managed cloud standard service and the premium services. So as VK told earlier, that Sitecore PaaS is basically platform as a service, and it is recommended when we are on Sitecore 9 onwards. And so likewise, the containers, because Sitecore has introduced containers from 10 onwards, so it is recommended that you should opt in the container option when either you are planning to upgrade to 10 or you are already working Sitecore version 10 onwards. For Sitecore PaaS option, this will utilize Azure App Services and related technologies. And for containers, Sitecore will utilize Azure Kubernetes services. Sitecore PaaS is obviously we are already familiar with this option, and it is very tried and tested and mature product from Sitecore. But containers, for container option, they just have introduced with the introduction of Sitecore 10 version. So it is, I would not say that it is fully matured, but yes, it is on its way to get it matured, because we have seen many of customers are choosing it, and we ourselves at Aspire are working on many projects on container managed clouds option. So yes, and then the deployment option. So in Sitecore PaaS, we will get ARM templates to deploy the infrastructure related things, but to deploy code related thing, we can use our existing CI/CD process. But for containers, I would say there is a steep learning curve will require for development team as well as for DevOps team, because for deploying the infrastructure, site or container managed cloud will use Terraform scripts, and for deploying the application or code related thing, they'll use the Ansible GitOps. So basically, this will require a learning curve that both of your team has to learn what the scripts are doing. We will need not to worry about how the scripts are running, but it is good. It is always good that we understand how they are deploying the environment or deploying the application code onto the Azure. Then we don't have any dependency on containers if we are opting on PaaS, so we can do the traditional development like we usually do, like installing the Sitecore using Safe and then do the deployment development in Visual Studio. So if you are working with PaaS, no dependency on containers. But if you are working with the container option, then yes, recommended way is always that the local development should always with be go with the Docker development. So that's a recommended way. So yeah.
Okay, so then we have like today we are not covering in detail like why containers. We assume like most of you are a little familiar with the containers part, but just to summarize, like obviously we are moving towards the containers to increase the portability of our solutions. So it is consistent environment. So we'll not have the problems of it's not working in one environment and working in another. If something is working on the container side of things, then it can run on anywhere, Linux, Windows, cloud, on-prem, or developer machine. So we can run container anywhere. It supports the latest microservice-based architecture, where we can kind of have different services for, like in Sitecore case, we have different pods. It's a smallest kind of the term in the container space where we host our service. So we have different ports for different services. Then we have it increase the efficiency in deployments and updates and scaling our solution.
Okay, so what's included in Sitecore Managed Cloud Container? So from here onwards, till now we just discussed the common options for both the products like cloud as well as PaaS. But from here onwards, we will specifically talk about Managed Cloud Containers option. So what we will get out of the box in the containers option is that we will get support option for XM and XP website. If we are using XC, then it is only available in premium version, not in the standard version. Then basically we will get the two subscriptions. Sorry for that. We will get the Azure portal subscription access from Sitecore Managed Cloud, and we will get the Azure DevOps access, search text access, Grafana, Kibana, front door. So all these options, for all these options, we will get access from the managed cloud. In the Azure DevOps, there will be two repositories application repositories and infrastructure repositories, and there are uh, quite a few deployment pipelines, application, infrastructure, front door. So we'll get access to all of these pipelines. And then if we'll request to Sitecore team via Sitecore support portal, we can get access to service principal as well. So this will help us to create a CI pipeline to automate our deployment.
Great. Okay. So from now onwards, we'll talk about the Sitecore containers bit in detail. Right. So this is the basic architecture of the Sitecore managed cloud containers that we would like to understand. We'll see this diagram. This looks a little bit complex, but let's simplify it with the journey of basically 2-3 users that we do have over here. So let's start with the journey of our end users, our users. So any users like coming onto our kind of the our website, they first hit the CDN. If we have a CDN service, mostly we do have for storing the media assets or the static content or the static part of our website. So they comes onto the CDN part. So that Sitecore provides that as well. Right. So then they come onto the Azure front door. That's a kind of a security layer where we kind of have they have to pass through the security, then the load balancer, and then the main part actually here that is come the ingress. So the Sitecore has multiple services like the content manager, content delivery, or the identity service. So basically this front-end system, this ingress controller, help us to navigate to the relevant. If I am coming with the CM URL, it will go to the relatively the port that we do have into the this. So it helps us to navigate to a actual port of a CM, CD, or ID, or marketing automation, where actually the request is coming for. So that's the work that the ingress is doing. Then obviously we do have like different clusters, or like in the container terms, so or different namespaces. Sitecore, in Sitecore namespace, we hold all the Sitecore services. Like even if you install the Sitecore on your local system, you will get different services in your IaaS or in your services. They all are kind of hosted in a separate ports over here. Then we do have one namespace for the monitoring. There we have multiple systems like the Grafana, Alert Manager, those sort of things. So that they do monitor our ports, they monitor our application and provides different logs to us. And then we do have a namespace for the logging, so Logstacks, Firebit, to kind of provide us the logs, visualization of our logs for our infrastructure, the Docker, as well as like our application as well. Because it's not any machine where you can go and you can kind of go and check. But obviously all these things are hosted on some machines, right? So so Windows nodes are anyway are important, but we are not looking into that side of things. Every Sitecore instance uses Solar, right? So Solar, the Sitecore managed cloud app service or containers, they both use the managed service from company called SearchStacks. So they manage the Solar, obviously the load balancing of the Solars and everything. So they are the kind of a SaaS provider for Solar. So Sitecore uses these. We might use SearchStacks directly in our own solution as well. So this is the basically the journey of a user, how he get the request served onto the front end side. Then we come on us as a partner or a developer or a architect, like what we need to do. Obviously, we have our own solution, local solution, because this is a container Docker based deployment. We are not pushing code, we are pushing here the Docker. We need to build our Docker. We'll get into the detail of how we will build the Docker on local and how we'll automate it in next slides. But let's say we have the Docker, we need to push the Docker on something called container registry. It acts as an artifacts repository for us for storing the Dockers that we have built. So it comes onto the container registry. Then what Sitecore managed cloud is not our pipeline. The Sitecore is providing, as in last slide, the Raman mentioned, like they provide the Azure infrastructure, Azure pipeline as well. So this pipeline will notice, okay, something has come actually into this container registry, then we need to deploy using the help of the Ansibles and the GitOps process. Right, so Terraform, if we have to update anything onto the over here, so then we do. Along with that, we do have the obviously the different databases connected it through, managed through the connection string from some Azure Key Vault for the security purpose, the Azure Active Directory, and the Azure other monitoring, analyzing, and responding like alert mechanism for as well. And here the cloud operation team, that's a Sitecore team that also help us to know and to kind of set up all those things. So this is a kind of a complete architecture for the over here. Everything is hosted on the Azure side of things. Even your search stacks is hosted on the Azure. Sitecore, wherever is your customer in US or in UK or in any other country or in India. So Sitecore and search stacks procure your infrastructure nearest to you. You see different components. So we have kind of defined all these components used here, like the VM, the Key Vault, Azure Cognitive Services, blob storage for any thing for backups and everything, right? So storing logs on part of it. Then monitoring services using multiple systems. SQL database, obviously they procure it using your SQL cluster, so that you will buy not individual databases, like complete cluster from Azure, load balancing and the CDN that we see for performance and high availability, DevOps, that we see the pipeline provided by the Sitecore, the container services, obviously, and the source stacks managed Solar, the Grafana. That's important, right? So Grafana is kind of a visualization tool that help us to know what's going on inside our container. So it provides the complete analytics to visualize web application. Then the Sitecore provides the Kibana. Then again, a visualization dashboard for viewing our logs from the container side of things. And then log stacks that helps to process our kind of the logs and things. And the Elasticsearch for analysis of our different logs again. So you can see here the different system. The good thing is, like, you don't have to kind of configure and connect those things with each other. Everything comes to you through Sitecore, and you just need to know how to kind of check the logs, how to check your problems, those sort of things. Then you need to figure it out. Everything's kind of pre-configured with Sitecore only. So you don't have to worry about things. So that's where the Sitecore provides you end-to-end solution. It's not just the simple infrastructure for hosting your Sitecore. The front end, obviously, for security and traffic routing, and engineering is a load balancer, as you mentioned, that's decide like which port to kind of use. Hope like it's clear, but we'll kind of discuss anyway this bit in detail again.
Okay, so then we'll talk about the RACI model. So when you understand all the components and architecture for Sitecore Managed Cloud, it's now on to understand who is responsible for what. So I'll discuss about, so there are two phases basically, the initial setup and the implementation. So I'll discuss the initial setup, and then we can talk about the implementation phase. So during initial setup, when we request Sitecore to set up a managed cloud for us. So you will see here for most of the components, Sitecore is responsible and accountable, whereas customers or partners, we are just consulted or informed. So whether it be the deployment of the new infrastructure or configuration of ACR or any other configuration, that Sitecore will just do, and they will just inform the partner team. The only thing here is that if there is any DevOps pipeline or any other implementation like Git repository, so there they may ask customer or partner team to be included, but otherwise mostly this is on them.
Right. So as you see here, sorry, as you see, like initially, like everything is on Sitecore, But that's where everyone kind of thought, okay, it's managed service, managed cloud. We don't have to do anything. But Sitecore has done already a lot of homework in doing their work, right? And they're repeatedly doing it for multiple customers. So it's easy to kind of set up. They have already everything kind of for us to set up. But when it comes, okay, onto the deployment part, right? You see the game change. Everything comes on us as a partner or on customers, technical team, basically, that we need to kind of looked into from the deployment perspective or implementation of anything other than the Kubernetes things, any connectivity that might be required with the initial things, WAF integration, customization, or any private container registry integration that if you want, any deployment like blue-green type of deployment that you would like to do, your CI and the build process, the local uh, building the Docker, that's on us. And that's a most important process that to learn about it. And we'll be talking bit in detail about this anyway. So addition of the custom Azure resources, if you want, like sometimes you use Azure AI services or use Azure function, logic apps. So if your application is using any of all these things, then you might need some addition of those, and then customization if in the infrastructure part, and again the your registration certificate of your domain. So those sort of things that you need to manage. And so basically they here you see the setup, monitoring, logging initially is on kind of Sitecore, but when we implement like our own solution, that's kind of our thing as well that we need to look. And for any non-Sitecore container ports, that if we do have any, then we need to kind of add those ourselves. Okay, and so now we see up to here the architecture of the over there. What's the responsibility of the Sitecore and us? It comes to us. It's a lot on the customer and the partners as well, and that's the main thing that we would like to kind of talk about. So for the development perspective, so we have the approach. Obviously, like we are doing the Sitecore development from so many years, installing Sitecore on local info on machine or an VM and start doing the development. So we have that approach as well. But even with this approach, Sitecore only accept your Docker container as an artifact. It doesn't accept your code or anything. So you need to build your local solution so that you can actually create a Docker to move on to the Sitecore instance, or you need to kind of automate the process using the CI pipeline developed maybe in Azure DevOps or any DevOps technology, so that you can convert the Docker on the fly using code, right? So that's the one way that you may continue. And but if you have obviously if you want to do the development with on local with Docker as well, so that's the option recommended, but there are challenges as well with that. It's a lot learning curve for everyone. Here is the learning curve for main architect and maybe the DevOps guy, but here the learning curve for the each developer. If you want to do the development with the Docker as well, obviously a lot of benefit as well. And one more thing, you should have a good configuration system, especially if you're working on XP things. You have a lot of Docker instances like pods, then you need a big machine, especially recommended at least 32 GB of RAM or thinking. So if you have every developer with this knowledge, good machines, I think we recommend to go with Docker instances. Otherwise, an architect in your team or a DevOps guy can do the magic from the behind. You can continue your local development like that, and the Azure pipelines can create the Docker for you on the fly on board, right? So you can always choose one or other based on your scenario.
Okay, so here I will mainly talk about the development with MCC using Docker. We all are very much familiar with the traditional way, so there is no need to talk about that. But if we are choosing the Docker option, then what will be the path uh, for the development. So uh, when it comes to the development in local machine, so managed cloud has to play no or very little role. So as we mentioned earlier that in the RACI model, so for implementation, partners or development team are responsible and accountable. So, but what after the local development? How to utilize the MCC magic, or how to push the images to the server so that MCC can deploy them to AKS. So with all these 4 steps, I'll try to explain all these question and complete way of working with MCC from local development to deployment. So you will get to know in these 4 steps architecture. So first step is always to prepare the solution and related files in local. So uh, here you can see like we have the SRC folder. So I'll show this the complete Docker folder structure in later slides, but mainly we have the SRC folder, which is having all the source code related files, and then we have all these Docker related files. So we have to first of all set up this Docker folder structure. Then next step is to prepare. Sorry. Then next step is so next step is to build and compose the Docker instance in our local. So using those Docker folder structure related files, so we have to build the Docker images and compose up in our local instance. And then third step is to commit all these related files. So whatever we have built in our local, we have to commit all these files to organization owned repository. So this is the main point that usually we think that from the MCC or Sitecore Managed Cloud, we will get all these. We are getting the Azure DevOps access, so we can commit all our code to their DevOps. But it is not true. We should always commit the code to our own repository. So this repository can be of our choice, be it Bitbucket, GitLab, GitHub, ADO, anything. We can commit our code to any of these repository, and once we'll commit, we can push the images what we build in step 2 to the Azure Container Registry. So this ACR is Sitecore Managed Cloud ACR. So once we will push these images from our local, we can update the Docker JSON file that is present in application repository of MCC. So till step 3, it is like till step 2, it was purely of local development machine of developer, no MCC role. In step 3, when we are deploying or we are committing the code, we should do in our organization node on a repository. But when we are committing or we are pushing the images, we should do in MCC or Sitecore Managed Cloud on ACR. So once we will push this image from here onwards, Sitecore Managed Cloud will start its work. So after this, we can relax and we can see how it works. So after that, the MCC CD pipeline will run, and that will deploy all these images that we push to their ACR. They will deploy to their Azure Kubernetes services and will deploy further on the servers, and our website will be up and running within few minutes once the deployment is finished. Now, with the step 4, we can automate all these deployment options. So in the step 3, you can see we are doing all this manual thing like pushing the images to ACR or updating the Docker JSON file. So these things we are doing manually, but it is not possible always if we have a big development team or like working in agile projects or doing these steps manually. We want our images to be built on the fly. So to do that, we can create our CI pipeline within our Azure means code repository. We can create our pipeline, which will build the images on the fly with the code that we have committed and push the images to ACR. So for pushing the images to ACR, because it is the MCC subscription, we will need access to the service principal. So that we will discuss later. So this is the overall 4-step architecture. And now in the next step, VK will just explain in the pictorial form how it will work.
Okay, so these 4 steps are very important. You see, like first 2 steps to be performed by the multiple developers. So they need to prepare their solution, right? So that Raman will talk about later, like what changes required into the current solution to make it Docker ready. They need to kind of made all those changes, need to build their local Docker. Let's say you have like 5 developers working here, right? And you commit your changes. And those changes are kind of merged over here. Then obviously you need a Docker instance where you have all those 5 developers changes as well, because up to here, each developer has its own Docker. The developer 1 is working on feature 1. So he has the Docker with feature 1. Developer 2 has the Docker with feature 2. They all commit their code into their repository, obviously with all the Docker information that we will talk about bit later. And then what is magic is actually is required, even if you work with single team, multiple team, is this build CI pipeline. This is very, very important. And I would say this is the important part of the overall development with it, to build this, to build the Docker on the fly on your merge kind of your code, right? So on your merge code, you take the base image, you take your code and build your Docker on the fly and automatically push the Docker onto the container registry. Up to here, we are on our pipeline. We discussed, can we host this on Sitecore? They mentioned no. So they have the pipeline for the releasing it from container registry to the AKS that we'll discuss. But this you need to maintain on your own, the source control, and you will push into the container registry. And as soon as you push into the container registry, update the Docker JSON file over here, then it's automatically trigger the release pipeline that goes, okay, new thing has come. So now I do have to deploy the things. So that's automatically AKS pulls same it from the container registry and deploy onto the AKS. So that's how your overall code goes into the AKS. So whatever the developer 1 or developer 2, it might, here we may have changes with one developer or multiple developer, they goes on to the AKS and accessed by this one. But that's your Docker instance only is about your code. What about like the your database items? We use Unicorn, TDS, CLI. There are many things that we use to sync the Sitecore item as well. Then you need to link a separate pipeline once after this deploy to kind of sync back your item as well. So that we anyway will talk bit in detail. So that's also that you need to kind of automate or move the packages over. If it's a very simple solution, but I think we recommend to kind of automate that as well. Okay, so let's see the solution changes now.
Okay, so from here onwards, like in couple of few slides, I'll just discuss the local development as I discussed in step 1 and step 2. So here I'll tell like what is the Docker folder structure and what this Docker compose file will do. So just going through the basics for everyone to cover up. So as a folder structure, if we'll talk about, so you can see we have a like Docker folder which contains file and folders to support Docker folder, and within this folder we further have data folder which contains log related information. Then the build folder, within the build folder we have folder for each services like CM, CD, Solar, or SQL. So these services folder contains at least a Docker file, but it can we can have multiple files based on our I would say customization. So this is a Sitecore runtime Docker file, which is used to build customized version of Sitecore runtime image. And it is always recommend to create a Sitecore runtime Docker file for each roles in your Sitecore topology, even if you don't have any customization to do at this time, but it will allow you to make hot fixes or further customization in future. Then we have this deploy folder where we can publish the solution artifacts during development, and traffic folder contains configuration related traffic reverse proxy. Then we have the source folder where all the files or folders related to our source folder in the Helix pattern, and the environment file which contains all the environment variable and the Docker compose files. Now let's see in the next slide what is what this Docker compose file will do. So this compose file is the main configuration file used by the Docker compose command, and it is used to build and up the containers and images. It contains information about different services like CM, CD, SQL, or all these roles that Sitecore provide. Uh, so here in this screenshot that I have present, so it is having all this information related to CM. Obviously, this is not the complete file. The complete file is the bigger one, but I just took the screenshot for the CM to make you understand. So here you can see we are just using the base image that Sitecore Docker registry, and according to the topology, I'm using XP node, and then the CM is depend on ID and XConnect. So because this is XP node topology, so it is going to depend on XConnect. But if it was XM, then maybe it is not depend on XConnect. And then what are the other variables, environment variables used to build this image? So we have to mention those images. So this Docker compose file is basically the default file. We need not to do any changes or any configuration in this file. This is provided by Sitecore in out of the box solution. So next is the Docker compose override file. So here you can see if any custom module or any customization we need to do in Docker compose, we will just basically create a docker-compose.override file. That's it. Sitecore will automatically recognize that these are the customization that we want to build on top of the Docker compose file. So in the last slide, you see in the CM file, I just included the base image. But here in this CM image, on top of the base image, you can see I want to include the Sitecore PowerShell extension module, SXA module, or maybe some tooling image, solution image. So whatever images I want to deploy on top of my base image, it will create a custom image out of that base image. So all this customization I will do in my Docker Compose override file. Next, we will see the Docker file. So it is basically nothing but just an instruction for each services, like how to create each role within the each topology. So here you can see a Docker file for CM role where we have provided the instruction how to add modules. So that's it. So it is the file that I was talking about, that we should include this file for each role, whether or not we are having any customization. So it will just allow us to do customization in future. Then we have this environment file. So very basic file where this file is just like our app setting config, which will store all the environment variables we are going to use in our Docker compose file. So we can give Sitecore admin username, password, SQL username, password, or any other environment variables related thing. We can just give here. We can give the our, like, let's say compose, what is our project name, what is our solution name. So we can pass it on over here, and we can fill this environment file on the fly using using a PowerShell command that I will tell you later. Yes, here. So the overall process to build or to start development in the local is, first of all, ensure that you have a valid Sitecore license. If you are working XP, you should have a valid XP or otherwise XM license. Then you should be having a init ps file. It is a PowerShell file which will initialize all these environment variable in .env file. So env file. So we can mention like what should be the host name, Sitecore admin password, SQL admin password. So we can mention here, and these once we'll run this PS, it will initialize the environment file on the fly. And then we can build the images using this Docker compose build command. Here you can see I have given the XM topology, but you can prepare the XP topologies as well. Once your images are built, you can see those images in Docker for desktop repository, and then you can fire up the container using Docker compose up command. So once your containers are up, local development is completed, and you can see your custom solution, and you can see your Sitecore, CM, and CD websites are up and running then. Okay, so once all these images are up and running and my containers are up and running, I can commit all my code related file to my code repository. As I mentioned, that this will be our organization owned repository, not the MCC one. And then whatever images I have in my Docker for desktop, we can push these images manually to the MCC owned ACR. So there is very simple command to push. PowerShell command is there, so we can push those images along with the tag. So we should not use the latest tag. Here also you can see in this image, I have used some random number as a tag. You should never use the latest tag for various reasons. And then once you push your images to ACR, then you should go to the MCC application repository and update the Docker image JSON file. So here you can see I have updated this uh, all these Docker JSON file, the CM image, CD image. So we have given our ACR reference and give the our tag number to these images. Once you will do this, rest everything will be handled by Sitecore managed cloud. As soon as you will commit anything into the Docker image JSON file, so CD pipeline will trigger.
Okay. So till here, you will see up to step 1, 2, 3 that Raman has explained a bit in detail. But as I mentioned, like you can automate those steps into the by the Azure as well, as you mentioned earlier. So we can automate those steps. But if you want to do local development with Docker, you do have to perform all those steps. Otherwise, you can have those files into your solution. You can, but still you can continue your development without that as well, right? So but let's see like how we can kind of push the things. So important thing as mentioned over here is the Docker image needs to push into the ACR with build number tags, and that could be your release number, or you need to kind of have a way to kind of incremental this number, then only like it will create, right? So we need to create a new feature branch for the MCC application repository that's into the Sitecore to update our Docker JSON file. So that's kind of a trigger with this number that trigger the Sitecore pipeline to deploy our Docker from the container registry to the AKS. Also, to do all these things, one thing also needs to important is the service principles to connect your pipelines with the Sitecore ones. You need to have the principles, service principles to be configured into your own pipeline. Then you can kind of create a PR and merge the feature branch into the main branch using the Azure CLI automatically, so that it will trigger the build automatically. So once merged, the MCC application pipeline, that's a Sitecore pipeline, will automatically run and deploy it from, as I mentioned, from the ACR to the AKR. So that's the automation. If you do this automation, the whole life of your the Docker development deployment onto the cloud will little bit kind of settle down, and without it, you will struggle a lot. Without this automation, so this automation is important. So let's see it in Azure format.
Yeah, so what VK has mentioned, it is just the pictorial form of that. So here you can see in the Azure, we have just created the pipeline. So this is again our organization owned Azure DevOps. You can use any other code repository as well. So it was easy for us to build this pipeline in Azure. That's why we use that. So Azure provides default steps, or like out of the box steps to build the Docker images. So you can see first step is to build the Docker images. Here you can see in the right hand side, we have using service principle, we have make connection to the MCC subscription. And then we have mentioned which Docker compose file and override file we have to use to build these images. And then next step is Docker push. So here again, to push these build images in the first step to the ACR. So again, in this step, we will mention what is the ACR URL, which is again owned by MCC. Then in the third step, we will modify the Docker image JSON tags. So as a tag, we will always give the build number, and we will update those tags. Once our tags are updated, we will see if there are any tokens in our config. We will replace those tokens on the fly in the configs. And then last step is once we have modified the Docker JSON file and updated the tags, we have to merge the pull request, because we can't directly update those tags in the main branch of MCC. We have to chop off a branch from the main branch. So we will create a feature branch, and then we will merge that feature branch back into the main branch. And once we will merge that branch, we can do this using Azure CLI. And once we will do that, CD pipeline will run. So this is the CI pipeline. Once it will be completed, the last step, step number 5, automatically CD pipeline will trigger from MCC.
Yeah, the only thing is here we are using 2 repositories. One is for the Docker build, and another is for that we are updating like the repository into the Sitecore managed cloud container as well. So we are playing with 2 repositories here. So that's kind of the little important to kind of consider the overall automation process. Hope it makes sense. Okay, so we are kind of almost run out of time. So as we mentioned, we don't want to rush the things, and we don't want to too much into the one session. We still have, I would say, a lot of material about the things, different things within the MCC, and different configurations that we do have, like especially on, once we have, till now we only talk about the basic Sitecore. But what about like to serialize the item, how to serialize the item, how to add the SXA module into it, if you want to Horizon setup onto it. So those things doesn't come out of box from the Sitecore point of view. That's we need to kind of update it. We have some Solar configuration changes in our solution. So we do have to update the search stack scores. So again, there's a process for that. But if you have the Sitecore JSS, and what if you have to kind of update the cloud? So there's few topics that we still would like to go through maybe into the next session. Then we'll request maybe Khushbu again, and maybe we'll take those things in next step. But if you permit, I think we can take some of the questions. Otherwise, we'll answer the questions as well. Khushbu, are we okay to take some of the questions? Time is kind of almost over, or you want to us to kind of answer separately and email to those members?
First of all, yes, we can definitely plan the another session for the remaining stuff. And yes, you can reach out to me. We will plan it in Sogin whenever you are available. And I still have few minutes. And if I think all participants are also here and they would like to hear the answers from you. So it would be good if you can take few questions, and if you have time, otherwise you can reach out to them or you can separately answer them. But I'm fine to keep this open for a few extra minutes.
Right. Okay, so let's see how many questions we have.
I think we have a lot of questions, but let's see.
Yeah. Let me maybe just take maybe 5 questions
Sure.
for now. Okay. So first is from the Rinku. If working on managed cloud, then local development will also be managed cloud, or it does start with non-production deployment? Why such stack can't normal Solar be work? So first question is, your local development can be start without managed cloud as well. So that, as we mentioned, but you need to prepare for the Docker. If you are deploying onto the container, your artifacts, you need to prepare artifact as a Docker. That the Sitecore accepts. So you can plan anything. So you have both the options to plan with Docker, without Docker, but the end artifacts has to be Docker. Search stacks and all those things. So that is Sitecore don't want to get into the complexity of managing the Solar. So that's why they have a tie-up with the search stacks. So we don't have any other option, just to go with that only, right? But as you mentioned, search stacks is only for web database. Actually, I think you're talking about search stacks, Search Studio. We are not using Search Studio. That's more work onto the web database. Here we are talking about especially for our the master and the core. Only it's a managed Solar service. So search stacks has 2 services: managed Solar and the Search Studio. So we are not having the Search Studio. We are having the just the managed solar. It's just your solar instance managed to them. Hope that answers. Then we do have question from Sharad Sangal. Okay, so for the Sitecore Managed Cloud Premium one, will the Sitecore technical help while development or pre-development phase, or only troubleshooting in product? So with Premium, you can have some consulting sessions with them. So their responsibility is in consulting. So that you can interact with their cloud engineer, or you can raise a ticket. If you want to know anything, they can redirect you to the right documentation or write up about it to do this. And we kind of have taken their help to get onto some of the tasks. If only troubleshooting, then what level of the involvement will they have in heavy customization? See, customization is mostly on customer. If it is our code problem and everything, but they help. They have given you the base, how you can check the logs, how you can kind of see what's going on. So that helps us to kind of into it. But for any customization, you need to, for any other extra code or anything you want to add, that's on us. In what stages scenarios you will recommend to Sitecore Managed Cloud Premium? Obviously, if you have a lot of customizations and integrations, then I think you should go with Premium. And again, Sitecore has a professional services as well if you need any more help from them. Okay, so then we have one more question from Rinku about licensing. Maybe let's skip it for now, as we have many other questions. We have already taken one question from Rinku. Then we do have question from Sumit. This service will come under Sitecore XP license, or is something we have to pay more? This is not the XP license. This is obviously a separate agreement for providing the infrastructure. As I mentioned initially, that's a separate discussion. License is separate. This is separate. You can get the bundle from the Sitecore as well, but this is separate. How can we suggest our client use managed cloud if they already have the local hosting? So they have the local hosting, but as I mentioned, it is familiarity. So one good thing is about the standard that the Sitecore has said, the 24/7 support that they have, and customer can focus on to their business, not on like managing the backend infrastructure. So there are many points that can be discussed with the customer about the benefits of the managed cloud, which is the best computing service provider and why. I mean computing provider, you mean the Azure over here? For Sitecore, I would say is Azure. Maybe Raman, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, so when a client wishes to move to cloud or XM or Ask session, should we suggest XM Cloud or Sitecore? So XM Cloud, yeah, I know yesterday or day before yesterday only they launched, but I would say it is launched just on paper, but the work means the complete working Sitecore is saying that it will be available for general public by this symposium. So XM Cloud right now is not an option for general availability. So right now we only have this managed cloud. So XM Cloud is out of the option right now. For extra deep information learning, do we have something on Learning Port? Yes, we do have very good documentation from Sitecore. This is doc.sitecore.com. So you can go there and just search with managed cloud for containers or PaaS, any service you're interested in, and you will get lots of information, and you'll get everything what you need for MCC.
Okay, I think rest is good. Yeah, thanks on to the XM Cloud. I would suggest if you have very basic maybe things and a new implementation, you may look, but the old Sitecore implementation and heavy implementation, I would still say you should have more controls. Right, so that's maybe needed. So you have your own cloud to manage yourself for the Sitecore. Thank you everyone for giving us your valuable time, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll come
Thank
back
you.
with the extended session again. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Vikas and Raman.
Okay.
Bye.